I should have known better. I should have trusted my gut, but it was late, cold, and I was buzzed. More than buzzed, honestly. I just wanted to get home. The Uber app refreshed, showing a driver nearby, Daniel. His picture looked off. It wasn't like the usual smiling selfies. This guy's photo was more like a mugshot. Disheveled hair, blank expression, and eyes that looked dead. I hesitated. My thumb hovered over the cancel button, but my breath fogged up the air as I stood outside. My stomach churned. Screw it. I confirmed the ride. He arrived within 2 minutes. When I opened the door and slid into the back seat, the air inside the car felt heavy, like stale cigarettes and sweat. Daniel didn't even glance at me. His knuckles gripped the steering wheel tightly, his fingers pale from the pressure. "Where are you going?" he asked, his voice flat, almost mechanical. No greeting, no small talk. I told him my address, and we pulled away from the curb. At first, everything seemed fine until I realized we weren't heading toward my apartment. I leaned forward. I think you're going the wrong way." Daniel didn't flinch. He just grunted and muttered something like, "Got it," before turning down another street. My heartbeat quickened, but I tried to calm myself. Mistakes happen, right? Maybe it was an honest wrong turn, but then his phone rang. It was loud, startling, and he answered without hesitation. I couldn't make out the words, but his tone shifted. Urgent, sharp. "Yeah," he said, "I'll be there." He hung up and glanced at me through the rearview mirror. "I need to make a quick stop. I'll knock off a few bucks for the ride." My mouth went dry. I'd really rather just get home. He didn't respond. The car sped up. As he drove, I noticed something glinting under the driver's seat. A zip tie. Thick and black, just barely visible from where I sat. My palms started to sweat. And then I saw it, the gun. It was holstered at his waist, partially hidden by his jacket, but unmistakable. My pulse pounded in my ears. I forced myself to stay calm, to think. If I panicked, he'd know. If I asked him to stop, would he pull the gun? I waited, block after block. His eyes stayed locked on the road. He didn't seem to notice me staring at the gun. Or maybe he didn't care. The car slowed for a red light. My chance. I grabbed the door handle, heart hammering, and threw it open. The cold air hit me as I bolted. I didn't look back. I just ran. I reached a convenience store a few feet away and burst through the doors. The clerk looked up, startled, as I slammed the lock behind me and gasped for breath. I peered outside through the glass windows. Daniel's car didn't stop. It just rolled through the intersection and disappeared into the night. I called the cops, but they said there wasn't much they could do. The ride had already been canceled in the app, by him. I reported it to Uber too, but I knew it wouldn't make much difference. I haven't used a rideshare app since. I never thought a 10-block ride could turn into the most terrifying experience of my life. But on that rainy night in New York City, as I stepped into the black sedan on 86th Street, I had no idea how quickly things could spiral out of control. I was soaked, my umbrella had flipped inside out, and my phone buzzed relentlessly with notifications. The rain came down in sheets, blurring the city lights into streaks of gold and red. It was only 10 blocks to 96th Street, but the weather left me no choice. I requested an Uber. The driver was silent, which I appreciated. I mumbled a greeting, but he didn't respond, just nodded slightly as the car pulled away. I didn't think much of it. I was too engrossed in my phone, scrolling mindlessly and answering texts. Minutes passed. My attention was glued to the screen until a sudden awareness crept over me. The ride felt long, too long. 10 blocks should have taken 5 minutes, tops. I glanced out the window. My stomach dropped. The skyline of Manhattan had disappeared. I saw trees, endless stretches of road, and street signs for the George Washington Bridge. I looked at the driver, but his eyes stayed fixed on the road ahead, his face blank and unmoving. "Excuse me," I said, my voice cracking. "Where are we going?" No answer. I repeated myself louder. "Where are we going? This isn't the right way." Still nothing. Panic set in. My breath came in shallow bursts, and my fingers trembled as I gripped the door handle. The speed of the car increased. The rain hammered against the windows, and headlights blurred past us as we sped down the highway. I had no plan, just raw fear and instinct. My hand shot to the lock button. It wouldn't budge. "Let me out! Let me out!" Then I did the only thing I could think of. I yanked the door handle and threw myself out of the moving car. I hit the pavement hard. rolling onto the slick, wet asphalt as horns blared and tires screeched around me. My knees and elbows burned, my head throbbed, but I was alive. Cars whipped past me, their drivers barely avoiding my body as I scrambled toward the shoulder of the highway. Lights. I saw lights, orange and bright, cutting through the rain. A group of construction workers rushed toward me. Their boots splashed through puddles as they waved down traffic and surrounded me. "Are you okay?" "What happened?" one of them asked, gripping my arm to steady me. I was too shaken to speak, my chest heaving and my mind racing. They called the police. I could barely choke out the details. The driver, the wrong turn, the locked doors. I kept looking back down the highway, expecting to see the car, expecting it to turn around and come for me. But it never did. When the police arrived, I gave them everything. The driver's description, the car, the license plate, but the ride had disappeared from my Uber app. No record of it. Nothing. To this day, I don't know if they ever found him, or if they even believed me. But I know what I saw, I know what happened, and I'll never take another ride alone at night again. I knew something was off the second I got into the car. The driver, Mark, according to the app, looked normal enough. A little too clean-cut, maybe, like he was trying too hard to make a good impression. He turned to smile at me as I climbed in, his teeth a little too white, his eyes lingering just a second too long. "Headed downtown, right?" he asked. His voice was smooth, rehearsed. I nodded, fastening my seatbelt. "Yeah, thanks." As we pulled away, he started chatting. At first it seemed harmless. How long had I lived here? What did I do for work? The usual small talk. But then he started asking more personal questions. Did I live alone? Did I have a boyfriend? What kind of hobbies did I have? I kept my answers short, polite but distant. I didn't want to be rude. I mean, he was driving me after all. But something about the way he kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror made my skin crawl. Halfway through the ride, he said, "You know, you have a really pretty smile." I forced a laugh, thanks. "I mean it," he said, eyes flicking to the mirror again. "You're the kind of girl who sticks in someone's head. Hard to forget." I stopped replying after that. Just stared out the window and watched the streetlights blur past. But he didn't stop talking. He told me how he was new to town and hadn't met many people yet. How it got lonely sometimes, and he liked picking up riders because it felt like making friends. "Or more than friends," he added softly. I froze. My phone was in my lap, but my fingers felt too stiff to move. I forced myself to glance at the app, pretending to check the route. We were still 10 minutes away. He noticed me looking. "Don't worry, we'll get there safe." His voice was low, almost soothing. "I'd never let anything happen to you." My stomach dropped. I started typing a text to my roommate, but before I could hit send, he said, "You don't have to be scared of me, you know. I'm not like other guys." He slowed the car, even though we weren't near any lights or traffic. "Why are you stopping?" My voice came out shaky. He smiled at me in the mirror again. But this time it wasn't friendly. It was hungry. "Just thought we could talk a little longer before I drop you off," he said. "You seem tense. I could help you relax." I didn't wait to hear more. I threw the door open and jumped out, nearly twisting my ankle as I hit the pavement. Behind me, I heard him yell, but I didn't stop running. I called the police as soon as I was safe, but they said there wasn't much they could do. The ride had technically ended without incident, and he hadn't laid a hand on me. Just a misunderstanding, they said. But later that night I got a notification. Mark had given me 5 stars, and he'd left a comment, "Can't wait to see you again."